Hey,
Hey,
did you learn about the latest jobs report?
yeah, what a lousy report. Only 96,000 jobs added. Pathetic.
Yeah, well, look on the bright side. At least the unemployment rate went down to 8.1%.
Oh please, that's only because about 368,000 people dropped out of the labor force. The economy just stinks. It's as simple as that. We've got huge deficits, $16 trillion national debt, inflation shooting through the roof. It'll be only a few years before we become Greece. Let's face it. We're broke.
We're not broke. We can never go broke as long as we have a printing press.
What? Yolanda, you should sue your high school. That's absolute garbage.
But it's the absolute truth. America issues its own currency, so we can never be unable to afford our bills.
Nonsense. You're talking absolute nonsense. You're advocating for the government to intentionally devalue the value of the dollar with excessive fiat money printing. You're advocating for hyperinflation, as if the government doesn't steal enough of our dollar. You want hyperinflation. That's it. We'll hyperinflate to pay off our debt and we'll default. And that will be the final chapter of our constitutional republic, all because of you Keynesian socialists who know nothing better than to borrow and spend. I guess it's time to grab my guns, gold and grub and head for the hills.
Geez, you're rambling, Habib. I never advocated for hyperinflation. I only pointed out to you that the US cannot go broke, since we issue our own currency. It's just a fact. We cannot end up like Greece. It's impossible. Where did you even hear that we would end up like Greece?
From Paul Ryan. What? What did I say? Yolanda, quit it. Quit looking at them.
Paul Ryan either knows absolutely nothing about economics or more likely, he does and is just fear-mongering so he can push his agenda of austerity and tax cuts for the rich.
An agenda? Or just admitting reality? Face it, we were spending beyond our means. We need to learn to spend within our means. Yolanda, you always seemed a sane person, but you've exposed yourself as a left-wing Keynesian Marxist communist lunatic who thinks that the government can just print prosperity.
What is it with you Austrians, that you always have to speak with apocalyptic hyperbole? Why do you always argue with strawmans? I never once implied that the government could just print prosperity.
What is it with you Keynesian Marxist-Leninist crackpots that you are always so apathetic to government spending? How can you not see that when someone's maxed out on their credit card, that they need to cut their spending?
You're wrong when you imply that the government even has a credit card. It doesn't.
What? Yolanda, you're talking absolute baloney. Of course the government has a credit card. The government can only spend what it taxes and borrows. Oh yeah, and it has a printing press, which issues debt. The government can only spend what it taxes, borrows, and issues debt. Debt which must be paid for later.
Habib, you're wrong. The US government only spends through printing money. Spending comes before taxing. Taxation isn't even used for spending. Think about it. Why does the government need to use your taxes for spending when they issue their own currency?
Wow. Fascinating.
Wow. So you understand what I'm saying. This is wonder.
I had no idea you were so monumentally stupid. You really have no idea what you were talking about. You don't even understand any basic economics.
Oh boy. It's like talking to a brick wall.
Better to be a brick wall that understands that you can't continue to spend money that you don't have, than a left-wing socialist crackpot who wants the government to spend until we become Zimbabwe or Weimar Republic.
Ugh. For goodness sake, Habib. Don't you know that for most of America's history, we've been running a deficit? Don't you understand that all government spending must go into the private sector? That it's a net financial asset to the private sector?
But all government spending must come from the private sector through either taxes or borrowing. All government spending thus hurts the private sector.
Habib, you just admitted a minute ago that the government issues debt, and I already told you that the government doesn't finance its spending through taxes and borrowing. Why then, are you repeating a falsehood? Government spending only crowds out private sector investment when we are running at full output, or in other words, full employment. When we are in a weak economy, the government must step in to replace the lost demand.
That's the Keynesian baloney that you are repeating. It's already been discredited. Your fiat funny money printing destroyed Zimbabwe. Your socialistic agenda caused hyperinflation in Zimbabwe.
No, it did not.
What?
You heard me. Money printing did not cause hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, nor Weimar Germany for that matter.
Ha 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 ha. Hey, Yolanda, you're in absolute riot, even though you're an economic illiterate.
Hyperinflation has never been caused by excessive deficit spending or huge debt levels. Zimbabwe is an exceptionally corrupt country, and the main cause of hyperinflation was that Robert Mugabe's government seized the white farmers' land and then gave it to some agriculturally incompetent black farmers. As a result of this, the country's food production capacity collapsed and it had to start relying on foreign imports. Unemployment and civil unrest increased, and the Zimbabwean citizens eventually rejected the currency. The money printing only exacerbates and ends the pain. The government doesn't really have a choice but to print. So you see, hyperinflation is not solely a monetary phenomenon. More importantly, it's a psychological rejection of the nation's sovereign currency.
What about China? China are our bankers. What if China decides to stop financing us?
China are not our bankers. They aren't financing our government at all. They just happen to hold a lot of dollars, seeing as they export a lot of their goods to us. Where are they going to put those dollars? They have decided to save them. So they have just decided to buy over $1 trillion worth of U.S. treasuries. They basically have a savings account at the Federal Reserve. If they want to spend those dollars, the Federal Reserve just transfers all the money in the savings account to a current account.
But Yolanda, do you even realize how big $16 trillion is? If you got $16 trillion all in $1 bills, you could cover all of the America's highways and country roads twice over. Do you even know how long 16 trillion seconds are? That's 500,000 years. We were spending $10 billion a day. If you spend $1 every month from the beginning of the Big Bang.
Habib, those numbers are completely useless. They're just numbers.
Useless? Have you even seen the debt clock online? It's rising every second.
It doesn't mean much when it is taken in isolation. People bring it up all the time, but when you understand what the debt is made up of and who we owe it to, there is nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about? Are you insane? We were drowning in this debt. If we don't get our act together, the bond vigilantes are going to take us to the cleaners.
Habib, as I've already told you, we don't borrow to finance our spending, as we issue our own currency. So bond vigilantes are imaginary bogeymen. They aren't a threat to us, unlike the countries in the Eurozone. The national debt isn't really a debt but merely all the dollars spent minus taxes collected over the 234 years.
What? It's not really a debt?
Not for us. If you've studied basic accounting, you'll know that for every liability or debt, there is an asset or credit.
Yeah. And? So what?
So who holds the asset side?
China?
No. We, the people.
Wait, so you're saying that we owe the debt to ourselves?
Yes. Congratulations, you are beginning to understand the modern monetary system.
Fascinating.
I'm so glad that you finally...
You're a minion of that socialist hack? Sorry. Free market welfare guy, Paul, let's prepare for an alien invasion. We need a housing bubble, Krugman. Yolanda, you're nuts.
Why do I even bother?